14 East 7th Street in Ybor City, where it all began. And we're getting ready to jump into the rotation. Hit the music.
Marijuana in my soul, marijuana in my heart.
Good song.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, huh?
I like it.
Yeah.
Who did that?
It's inspirational.
Give credit to the artist.
That is like some royalty-free reggae music that we found like 4 or 5 years ago.
Oh my
We
God.
actually started this podcast 8 years ago. Wow.
8 years ago.
So
Gee, time flies.
myself and that gentleman that square to the right, Chris Cano,
Chris.
started this podcast in my garage about 8 years ago. We were on the radio off and on. You were actually interviewed already on this podcast.
Yeah.
We did the Pride Parade.
in,
At the Pride Parade. That's
Yeah.
right.
And here we are, full circle again. You're still supporting us. Look
Of
at
course,
you.
of course. And Chris,
know?
you're in DC today. How's the weather up there, brother?
It's overcast today, but looking good. I was up here for a union election that I've been working on at the Maryland Institute College of Art, and the workers went out today and they were able to form their own union. So I'm happy about
Go
that.
Union strong, my man.
Indeed.
Brothers and sisters. All right.
SEIU, and it heads out to the 1199 over here.
So
Florida.
So I'm sure Gary is dying to give you a proper introduction. We started a little informally, but Gary is dying to give you a proper introduction, like you deserve there, sir.
Well, good. In that case, I'll take over and do me first. I'm Gary. I'm the political director here of Suncoast Normal and the master of public health. And to my far right, your left, is Carlos Jose Hermida.
Hi, everybody.
Our masters of business administration, our engineer, and our guy who tells us what not to do when you're trying to park in Ybor City.
Good luck with that.
And to my right, from inside the Beltway, where he hits him under the Beltway, Chris Cano, our executive director.
All right.
By the way, his hair was much shorter when he started this program.
Indeed.
But that DC will do that to you, won't it?
Chris, what's on your shirt? What's that a picture of?
Mr. Rogers.
That's what I thought. He was always such a nice guy.
Definitely an inspiration and a role model. Indeed.
Sure. Who didn't Tom Hanks play him in the movie?
Yeah.
It just came out.
I have
Yeah,
not
did a great
seen that
job.
yet. And in the middle of we are in the middle here of a Charlie Crist sandwich.
Yeah,
As it stands, but
Wait a minute.
This is some Cuban bread and some Charlie Crist.
but
and
no salami. Do not put salami into Tampa's Cuban sandwiches. This is the once and future possibly governor.
I feel like we're with Arby's. We have the meat.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just the bread. He's the Cuban bread. I'm the challah, and you're the meat of the situation today, Congressman. And the Congressman.
Just Charlie, please.
You said that the very first time I met you. I said, Governor. You said, don't call me Governor. I said, what do I call you? You said, Charlie. I said, okay, Governor.
That's exactly what you did, right? It's funny. People like to say the word governor. It's a cool word.
I don't like saying it lately in Florida.
Oh, no, I hear that. Well, that's why we're going to change it.
I mean,
From a bad governor to a good governor again. Florida deserves better.
to be honest with you, I'm pretty much an NPA guy because I like to be able to criticize both sides equally because nobody should escape my wrath. But it just seems like the GOP has been more of a cult lately. It's like, they implant devices in your head. So you say something wrong, all of a sudden, like on Star Trek, you just turn red and get shot with pain and stuff. So they only say the party line.
Right.
And I couldn't live that way.
Yeah.
I don't know how the folks in DC do that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, I see people evolve. We worked with Matt Gaetz to get the first bill that actually legalized cannabis here in the state of Florida, and he just seemed like he was a totally different person since he went up to DC. Have you noticed that?
Well, I didn't know him previously, so what I see is what you see now. And I got to tell you, though, on a personal level, he's always been a gentleman to me. He really has, and I appreciate that.
See, that's the
Now,
kind of ambiance you don't always hear lately. We hear so much divisiveness, and I wonder, with any kind of bill like cannabis that has to do with it's an issue where almost 80% of the population is in favor of it, how can we move forward if we are divisive? And that's one of the issues we deal with.
Well, that's what campaign is about, to tone down the divisiveness, to bring people together, to be more hopeful and encouraging, and work across the aisle just to do what's right for the Sunshine State, because it's been dark these past 3.5 years with the Saints, and I need to bring the sunshine back to the Sunshine State, and we're going to do exactly that. I mean, Florida's the best place to live in the world, the most beautiful state with the prettiest name, La Florida, the flower. I mean, how can you beat that? It's amazing. It's an amazing place. We got to lift her again.
I just learned what Florida means. Yeah. I never knew that.
Ponce de Leon. A lot of flowers must have been on that beach where he pulled up.
Under my nose the whole time. The flower has been under my nose the whole time.
Carlos, did you go to public school?
I did.
That's why.
So that's why. Hey, I went to public schools in St. Petersburg. I went to Bay Vista Elementary and Bay Point Junior High. They called them junior high. I'm told that's and then Riviera, and then graduated St. Petersburg High School in 1974.
Unfortunately, I went to Broward County.
Oh, Broward!
I'm just kidding. Broward's awesome.
It is.
Yeah, I'm just so we've got basically so your running mate the last time you ran was on the show last time. Annette Tadejo, and hopefully I'm saying her name right.
You did. Good person. Good lady.
And I want to go ahead. I just want to start kind of like jump into this whole thing. I think this is a great way to jump into this. I asked her, you got Charlie running, you got Nikki running, right? Two people. You've been a friend to medical marijuana and to legalization for quite some time now.
Yes, sir.
And what makes your policy, different? What makes your policy better? And I want to go ahead and ask you the same thing, right? You got three people running in this primary for the Democrat primary,
right?
All of them friends to marijuana. Why are you more a friend than your opponents?
I don't know if I am or not. All I know is that I think we need to legalize it recreationally.
Okay.
And I think that we need to expunge the records of those who have been unfairly punished, which is predominantly, people of color, black and brown people in our state, and get their records expunged so that that's erased from their past, because I believe in forgiveness. Mm-hmm. And the policy up to this point in time in a lot of America has, I think, been wrongheaded. And, there's like 18 states that have already legalized it, the District of Columbia, and Florida needs to come into the 21st century. I mean, it's 2022, not 1952.
What's interesting too, because like in Florida politics, we get wrapped up in this Democrat, especially in the medical marijuana movement. We get wrapped up in this is a Democrat issue, this is a Republican issue, and I gotta tell you, you mentioned Washington D.C. We had Eleanor Holmes Norton on the show, and she's the congresswoman in that district, and she was straight up like the biggest opposition to this. I've been ready to go in my district, right? Washington D.C. it works this way, and the opposition in my way is Biden, right? Biden's the one that's, I've had this bipartisan support for what I've been trying to do, right? Biden's the one that stops it in the end, right? So it's really not a partisan thing anymore. And, to be straight up with you, and Gary's talking about, how you were conservative at one point, you ran as a Republican, you ran as a Democrat. This isn't a partisan issue at all.
It's not. You're absolutely right, Carlos.
This is a common sense thing at this point.
No question.
It doesn't matter. I could have sworn, and like I'm gonna I've been typically we do things no holds barred, but I heard conspiracy theories about you running for governor the last time, and the reason why you were running for governor and why it was thought that you could win this election, that election, was because people would show up for medical marijuana, and you support medical marijuana, and that this was a good time to get the Democrats in power, and you would be the ticket for that. Unfortunately, that was a sad night, by the way, when none of that happened.
Less than 1 point difference. Unbelievable.
It was so crazy. You know, and that's another thing. I feel like I'm taking over for, like, I'm like the least political of these two guys, and I feel like I'm taking over the conversation. But that's another thing too.
You're speaking from the heart.
Yeah, and you must have had your Red Bull too.
I mean, this state has always been a purple state. It's always been, you know, it's close. You know, you 1 percentage point. You know, you felt it, man.
One of the few that has been closer
Uh-huh.
is the one where DeSantis got elected over Andrew Gillum.
Yeah.
That was only by 0.4 of 1%. That minute. Incredible.
There's a lot of people that have moved into the state lately. We've seen such a great influx of population. You represent St. Petersburg right now. So you know, man, like St. Pete's a destination right now.
Oh, it's on fire. It's remarkable.
These people are new Florida voters. Like, how is that going to affect the way politics is handled in the state?
The new influx, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, we get about 1,000 new people every day. You're right, Carlos, and so many from New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, the Northeast, but we get a lot from the Midwest too. You know, Minnesota, Iowa, Indiana, what have you, and I think it just kind of depends where they come from, and if they register to vote when they get here. We're getting a lot from Puerto Rico too, though.
Nice.
You know, is incredibly important. You know, Puerto Ricans are Americans, obviously. And so, you know, when they come, unlike somebody who comes from, let's say, Mexico or wherever, they don't have to go through the whole citizenship thing because they are citizens. They are Americans already. And so all they need to do is register to vote, and tell you that 1.2 million Puerto Rican Floridians are here in the Sunshine State. And the big difference they can make in this election could be absolutely extraordinary, really. And my friend Darren Soto, who I Congress, he represents, you know, parts of Orange and Osceola County. And, you know, he's a wonderful man. I was able to visit Puerto Rico about 4 weeks ago now with him for a weekend, visit with the governor's family, and went to a market, and we just had the opportunity to see the beauty of the island, and more so the beauty of the people. It was great.
Yeah, Monique and I always go to first night when it comes to New Year's Eve, because it's a far more family affair, and there's always a lot more room around there to be able to watch the fireworks. Not so much as last year; it was all in the fog. But in 2019, we couldn't help noticing that like almost half to 3/4 of the population there were displaced folks from Puerto Rico who had escaped Maria.
It's amazing, and the influx has been huge.
It was, and they were so grateful to be there. They felt displaced, and yet there was a certain sense of community in St. Petersburg. That I think that they found a community there.
Yeah, 100%, Gary. Yeah, you can't beat St. Pete. It's amazing. You can't beat Florida. I mean, what a jewel.
I think the Tampa Bay area, quite honestly, should be the marijuana mecca of the U.S.
Why not? I mean, we get this thing passed. And if I could talk about that for just a minute, Carlos, forgive me, but passing, legalizing recreational marijuana, the impact that could have on the Sunshine State would be exceptional. I agree with you. And I think that, number one, you get to regulate it. Number two, you get to tax it, regulate it, make sure that none of it's dangerous, tax it. The revenue, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. We know that. And the impact of that on our state budget, we can use those additional hundreds of millions of dollars in order to pay teachers what they deserve. You know, we're the third largest state in the country, and we're 49th in what we pay our school teachers. That's embarrassing. But and help law enforcement officers at the same time, because we've got to have good training for law enforcement. We all know that, you know, after George Floyd and so many embarrassing things, but also to support law enforcement officers and keep our communities safe. It's just very important. And those additional revenues would help Florida do a whole lot more. And I want Florida to be as great as she deserves to be.
Has it been different since the time that you were Commissioner of Education?
Has what been different?
As far as the amount of money spent on education here in Florida?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it has. You know, as a percentage, I think it's way down. Like I said, we're 49th today under Governor DeSantis, 49th out of 50 states in what we pay school teachers. That was not the case when I was your governor.
Absolutely. And of course,
or your commissioner of education, or your attorney general,
yes.
or your state senator,
Oh, keep
or your
going.
congressman.
There you go.
Guy can't hold a job. Jeez. It's been a journey, gentlemen.
Well, Congressman, we spoke with one of your colleagues, Representative Nancy Mace, who actually is sponsoring the States Reform Act. And in her bill, some of those tax revenues do go to support law enforcement. So, yeah, when we're looking for how do we spend, the revenues from the cannabis, taxes, that's all well and good. And I know that's a very popular thing for people, across every part of the political spectrum. But
Yes,
one of the main things that is still a holdup is if we're going to spend paying our bills as a government with weed money, then people should not be in jail for trying to pay their bills with weed money.
No kidding. You got it right. It's common sense. You said it earlier, Carlos, and that's exactly what it is. Speaking of Representative Mace, I co-sponsored legislation with her for the benefit of Britney Spears. We did that together. She's Republican. I'm Democrat. Good bipartisan bill, so that people that have the kind of conservatorship or that really got messed up. Her dad screwed it all up, and she was really trapped. And Britney Spears had the courage to stand up and be heard. And America and the world should never be able to thank her enough for being that strong and giving us the idea to sponsor legislation to make that the law of the land throughout the United States, where if you have a bad conservatorship, that you can appeal to the court to get that person removed and therefore get your life back, really.
Yeah, thank you for that. And there's another Britney who currently needs to be freed, and that's Brittany Griner, who's being detained in Russia for having a vape pen. I mean, and that is just ludicrous in so many ways. But then
Yeah.
she's
WNBA, right?
Yeah.
Which
indeed.
team did she play for? I forget. Do you remember?
I
don't know. Might be the Lynx out of Minnesota. They're one of the best. I know that much.
Well, I'll say this much is that, Russia detaining her is wrong. And that's part of the problem that we have is that the war on drugs has been transported to other nations and
Right.
they've taken it and run with it. And we've seen the escalation, that it's caused, from the late 90s with the passage of Joe Biden's, 1994 crime bill, incentivizing the escalation on the war on drugs. And what we've seen is it's not stopped drug use at all. As a matter of fact, we have a national crisis in drug use. And what we're seeing is that cannabis is actually an exit drug for people who are dependent on opioids and prescription painkillers. And our veteran population is one of those main targets that's using it as an exit drug. And we actually have some folks commenting here saying, the VA not recognizing medicinal cannabis and veterans needing the right to grow it at home here in Florida are some key things that we still need to address in the shortcomings of our policies.
No question. Absolutely the truth.
I'll be straight up with you, man. I think probably the issue that the movement in general is most concerned with, and that's whether or not we're going to be able to grow at home. Right?
Well, I think we ought to grow at home, be able to grow at home. I mean, if you can brew your own beer, you ought to be able to grow your own weed. I mean, it just makes sense. And so I think, and I should probably tell you why I feel so passionately about this issue. It goes back to, I had three sisters, Margaret, my older sister, Elizabeth and Kathy, my two younger sisters. We lost Margaret about 6 years ago. She got a horrible brain cancer. It's called glioblastoma. They call it the monster.
Yeah.
And usually once somebody gets it, it's like Joe Biden's son, Beau, had it. Senator John McCain also got it. It's way too much out there. So my older sister, Margaret, got it. And within a year and a half or so, she was gone. But in her final days, it was, hard to watch her in pain and fear and not be able to, utilize legally cannabis if she wanted to calm her soul and her spirit. And so that's really tugged at me on this issue, and it matters.
So, I mean, that's, we could have seen our current system implemented under you.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's a lot of things that you would have done differently. And we've talked about, we've had the whole activist hypocrisy talk already. But what would you do differently? How would you have what just upsets you the most about this program that's in right now? Like what would
About
you,
where we are now,
yeah,
as it relates to cannabis.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I want to legalize it.
Yeah.
Because people don't have the opportunity, like my sister. That was before medical marijuana, even.
yeah,
So that option wasn't available. Legalizing it recreationally
Mhm.
lets the individual citizen have the power.
Mm.
A word I don't ordinarily use, but that's the highest office in the country.
Mhm.
I mean, it was great to be governor. I'm sure for President Biden, it's great to be president. But the highest office in America, a democracy, is citizen, because it's only citizen on any given election day who can change who is governor, who can change who is president. And so, empowering individuals is very important to me. Individual freedom, individual liberty. And this governor talks about how we're the freest state in America. Well, apparently not if you're a woman and want to have the right to choose.
Yeah.
Apparently not if you're black and want to have the right to vote and put your ballot in a drop box in your own community. Apparently not if you're LGBTQ and you don't want your kids to be, ostracized in school. I mean, this guy, it's almost like he goes to bed, Carlos and Gary, every night thinking about what group can I pick on tomorrow. He's just a mean, nasty guy. He's unhappy. I've never seen him smile. And well, have you? I mean, think about it.
Yeah, but it's this very evil smile.
It is what it is, and that's why Florida deserves better. That's why I'm running for governor, is to like policies that affect cannabis and individual freedom and individual rights, like civil rights, like voting rights, are actually respected instead of torn down the way Ron DeSantis has torn them down. He's making it harder to vote, harder to live free, harder for women to make decisions about he doesn't respect people. And that's not right. I mean, you're supposed to serve with a servant's heart and be a public servant, not a politician. He is a politician only and cares only about his future, not ours. He cares more about the White House than your house.
One thing that anybody hates is if their vote doesn't count. And it seems in Florida, especially when it comes to citizen initiatives, they're making it more and more that citizens don't count as far as either even creating ballot initiatives or even the ones we pass,
Right.
like the ones that would give felons their vote back, which you originally did when you were governor, and your successor went ahead and took away, and we're still trying to get it back.
When I was governor, this is a quick story, if you don't mind.
Go for it.
Interesting. It relates to
I think
criminal
I'm out
justice.
I've already asked enough questions today.
Well, on this point, restoration of rights, incredibly important issue, especially to minority communities, because the disproportionate appropriation of people in prison is our minority. So this is 2006, the first time I got elected governor, and I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, 1 week from Election Day. So Tuesday before Election Day. And an Associated Press reporter named Brendan Farrington said, "Charlie, I got a question for you." And I'm exhausted. I'm running on fumes. We got a week to go. Probably way too much Red Bull then. But at any rate, I said, "Yeah, what's your question, Brendan?" He said, "If you win next week, Charlie, will you commit to fight for automatic restoration of rights of former nonviolent felons?" And so I thought about it. I'm a Republican, and I'm thinking, and I just blurted out, yes. I just spoke from the heart. I said, yes, I will do that. I commit to do that. And then I start getting calls from, my then former Republican friends. "Charlie, what are you doing? You probably, if this would come to pass, a lot of those people who would get their rights restored are probably." And I said, "Well, I don't care. If I get elected next week, I'm not going to get elected the governor of the Republicans of Florida. I'm going to get elected the governor of the people of Florida, all of them." And that's how I look at it. And so when I got elected, got sworn in January of 2007, took the oath, and that spring with the other cabinet members, Charlie Bronson and, well, the AG didn't help us, but Alex Sink did, and mine, we had 3 votes to 1. And we brought about automatic restoration of rights of former felons that were nonviolent, and 155,000 people got their rights restored, not just to vote, but to get, licenses and permits to do certain work, to be truly restored. we restored their soul of 155,000 people. And you're right, Gary. Right after I left, the next governor shut it all down to a trickle. And same way with DeSantis. I mean, they just don't have forgiveness in their heart, and it's wrong.
The clemency boards just seem to be ridiculous. Number one, they hardly even meet.
Say again, I'm sorry?
The clemency boards.
Yeah.
They hardly even meet, and when they do, they don't
Oh.
seem to offer any clemency. I don't think Patronus has even tried to say yes at any time.
They're AWOL. They're AWOL because they don't care about people. They don't care about second chances. And that's just wrong. That is absolutely wrong. You know, but for the grace of God, there go I. I mean, I just saw a guy down the street who had a sign in his hand saying he just got out of jail and, you know, I need help. And so I gave him a little money, talked to him, and his name's Kevin. I won't say his last name, but at any rate, you know, that's what we need in leaders. Look at Joe Biden, the kind of compassion that guy has. I mean, when he first got elected to this, because he's seen so much suffering, he's had so much suffering. When he got elected to the U.S. Senate when he was 29, you know, not long thereafter, his wife gets in an automobile accident. She dies. Their daughter dies in the accident.
Oh man, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, the two boys almost lost their life, but they didn't. And then later on, his son Bo dies from the same cancer, brain cancer, my sister Margaret had. So he can empathize because he's witnessed it, he's felt it, he understands it, and he knows that people need to be lifted, like I do. I mean, I saw my sister suffer, you know, and that's the kind of leadership we need to have, with empathy, caring. You know, Ron just doesn't care. Charlie Crist cares. I really do. I swear to God.
Well, I do have a plan to try to flip Biden in regards to how he feels about cannabis. And it may or may not work, but we have one lady here in the state of Florida who is the oldest living ALS patient that anybody knows of. Her name is Kathy Jordan. She lives in Manatee County. She was actually the hairdresser for Joe Biden's first wife while he was still.
You're kidding.
No, when he was first running for
And what's her name again?
senator.
Tell us again.
Kathy Jordan.
Kathy.
Yeah, she has had ALS. since
Like my
19
younger sister, Kathy.
Yeah, she's had ALS since 1986.
Okay.
She was
Yep.
supposed to be dead in 1990, and she just turned 70 this last year.
Happy birthday, Kathy.
And I think that he had a chance to meet her and realize that it was the one thing that worked for her was cannabis. It stopped the actual progress of the disease in 89, and she's still alive today to talk about it if she'll listen. She actually did talk to Jeb Bush at one point in time,
Really?
but when he got in front of the cameras, he denied ever meeting her.
Oh my.
When he said, "Have you ever met anybody who has ever used cannabis as a medicine?" He said, "No, I've never asked," which was insane because he asked her directly. Now, I do have one more question before I bring up
Yeah,
my
sure.
beautiful
Go ahead.
bride, because I know
Uh-huh.
she wants to ask a question today too.
Yeah.
I was doing some due diligence, and I noticed everybody says how Congress is always do nothing. You, in the last two terms, have filed and co-sponsored over 1,000 bills.
Yeah.
I mean, over 1,000 bills, and some of them actually became laws.
Indeed. The biggest one was for veterans.
Yeah, absolutely.
Veterans Court, signed by President Trump, believe it or not. But he did so, I think, because he was concerned about the Republican sponsor in the Senate, getting her to have a good law to talk about.
I mean, and I was interested in looking at the transplant law.
Yeah,
Although
right.
I thought it had to do with the actual liver transplants, but it has to do more with stem cell, correct?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which
Which is
totally believe in.
remarkable, the advancement in modern medicine. It's tremendous.
Okay, Minnie.
Kathy.
Hi.
And this is my bride, by the way. This is the wing beneath, above, and beyond my wings, which she constantly clips from time to time just to keep tracking me. But she wanted to ask you a question in regards to what DeSantis has been doing with this country,
Okay.
with this state, I should say.
Hi, Charlie. Gary's
Kathy.
holding a picture of my two daughters.
Yeah.
Both were born with the same syndrome that I have. My youngest daughter, at the time of this picture, had a tracheostomy, and she was unplugged long enough. We were at Kings Island in Ohio. She was unplugged long enough to let her run around Paramount Kings Island. We had a nurse with us. But in any case, she was on Make-A-Wish Foundation. We never did get that call, but luckily Gary got a job here in Florida, so we were able to come here. The one thing that absolutely burns me is this particular governor. And I don't think you.
Governor DeSantis, you mean?
Yes. One thing that I'm aware of, Disney helps quite a few of these parents on Make-A-Wish Foundation come here and have a good time.
I didn't
And-
know that.
Okay. And my daughters have, as I made mention, the same syndrome. A lot of these kids hope and pray that they get that phone call and they're able to come here. And Governor DeSantis has this thing because he didn't get his contribution from Disney that he wants these children to die without making their wish come true. I don't understand the cruelty.
I don't either.
I know that there are mothers here. I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off.
Not at all.
I know that there are lots of mothers that are Republican, Latino, Black, Asian. I don't care what their nation is. But when you look into the eyes of these children and their tears start swelling up because they know that they've got a chance to come to Disney and the happiness that they feel, Disney's calling, we can go, we can go. And he is denying them and saying, Disney's terrible, Disney's awful. Even our congressmen, even our federal congressmen and senators, how can you deny these children the opportunity to come here if we wouldn't have had a job, a way of getting here? I can't imagine. There were so many times that we told our daughter, you're going to come, we're going to be able to go to Disney one of these days. Hold on, baby, hold on. How could you be so cruel?
It's hard. It's unconscionable, really. It's hard to fathom at all. And, well, you know, he got mad at Disney because they exercised their right to free speech about a bill that he was nicknamed, you know, Don't Say Gay.
Right.
And he got angry, and he's a bully, and he's trying to punish them. And, you know, it employs more people and provides more happiness, to your point, the happiest place on, to children and others who get great joy out of being able to go there and spend some time with their family at Disney World. And it blows my mind that he's got this war going on with them. And I'm sure God's not happy about that.
There are 67 million people in this country with disabilities. We just listened to a seminar today through the CIL, which is Centers for Independent Living with Northwest Florida. And I didn't even know it was that high. And
I didn't either.
And our daughter is one of those people. We have two daughters with the same syndrome that I have.
Right.
And the fact is that there are children that are dying every day that never get that phone call.
Right.
Because they are just, I mean, their diseases and so forth take them beforehand. And we're not lucky enough to come here. And we know people that have lost their children that never had a chance to come here. We were lucky enough to come here. And I just don't, I mean, I urge mothers that have children with disabilities, keep in mind, please keep in mind that your children, you know somebody, we know you know somebody with children with disabilities. Don't take it out on these children.
Right.
Don't.
They're not
Thank
being
you,
groomed.
Kathy.
They're not being groomed by Disney. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Stay right there.
Yeah, and there's the youngest one with the trait. That's her graduation picture with her two sisters.
Oh,
So
that's
they-
beautiful.
Growing up to two lovely ladies,
Beautiful. God bless you.
and they're Democrats.
Thank you for sharing, Kathy. Yeah, well, I got a friend, John Morgan,
Yeah, I
you know, great lawyer, Morgan and Morgan. And he told me, to your point, if Jesus Christ came back, he'd be a Democrat for the people. Hey, I've enjoyed being with you guys. I can't thank you enough for the time and that you've been doing this as long as you have. What'd you say, 8 years now?
Yeah.
Chris?
I mean, Charlie, the
That's
reason we started this chapter, my father was diagnosed with terminal dementia in 2010. And I was arrested
Sorry.
in 2014 for basically getting him the medicine he needed to survive. And, you know, that was the reason I came to work on your campaign in 2014 was Rick Scott in 2012 line item vetoed my dad's healthcare program and displaced 1,000 other families with all inclusive care for their, you know, who have suffered from memory conditions. And knowing that the federal government has had a patent on utilizing cannabis and cannabinoids to treat strokes, to treat Parkinson's, to treat dementia, and yet it's still a Schedule 1 substance. We need Congress to address that sooner rather than later, and I hope that with the midterms, it doesn't get kicked and punted again, because of a shift in power or demographics of who controls what. But right now in Florida, Ron DeSantis is failing to lead on key issues. Number one, people are still being fired from their jobs or being precluded from jobs for being medical marijuana patients. And you may even heard, of the lawsuit that some patients are suing the Biden administration over their Second Amendment rights, because you should still be able to protect your family and your home and still be a medical marijuana patient. And one of the last things that really irks me is my aunt, Sylvia, passed away because, she needed a liver transplant. And, I told her, I have a buddy who survived liver failure, who was on the transplant list for many years, and he utilized medical cannabis. And people should not be precluded or kicked off the organ transplant list. And Gary and I have been working to get legislation passed to make that happen. And the House GOP just shouted it down in the middle of the night as we try to Hail Mary to get them on as amendments into the budget bills. And so, the fact that we can't get hearings in the Florida House or Senate on these bills, the fact that Ron DeSantis is failing to lead his own party in supporting sick people and medical marijuana patients, these are the things that we're raising for you on the campaign trail, because we would like to see these things change as governor, and we'd like to see you implement these things should you win.
I will, and the good news is we've only got about 6 months to go. So that is November primary, August 23rd, November the 8th. I'm excited about it. I know we only win if we all vote. We all have to vote.
I have a very quick question here from one of our listeners here. It says, ask Congressman Crist.
Just Charlie.
I'll work on that.
JC, just Charlie.
If he supports maintaining the current cannabis cartel licensing system, or does he think that small mom and pop businesses should be able to have a cannabis license as well in Florida?
We need to fix it. I think it's awful. I know black representation in that group that now is legally able to sell medical marijuana. That's wrong. And we have to fix that. And the distribution has to be on an equitable basis that is fair to all and just. And I just don't see that it's operating that way right now.
Well, can the governor change a Republican legislature to make it happen?
Yeah, sure. And I'll tell you why. I get asked that all the time, Gary. How are you going to work with a Republican House and a Republican state Senate? Well, number one, I still have hope. You never know what may happen. And things change. And we're going to see big election results tonight in Georgia, Alabama, and Arkansas. And I hear the turnout is record, meaning more than it was 4 years ago for a governor in Georgia in 2018. But it's better than that. It is exceeding presidential level turnout, because Georgia did what Florida did. They tried to suppress the vote, make it hard to use mail-in ballots, make it more difficult for blacks to vote, and drop their drop boxes in minority communities all over the Sunshine State. And I predicted how there's a backlash to that. When you tell somebody something they can't do, they're going to be bound and determined to do it. And that's happening in Georgia today, from what I heard in the news account yesterday. And it'll happen in Florida too. I mean, people don't like to be told what they can't do. We love freedom. And we have a governor who apparently hates freedom and tries to tell people what to do in bullying fashion, whether it's a school board, a county commission, or an individual woman and her right to choose. Florida deserves better, and it's coming. Help is on the way.
The very last thing, Charlie, we're not going to keep you anymore. We're not going to make you sit on this uncomfortable stage any longer.
It's comfortable with you guys.
We just need you to go ahead. Just look right there into the camera. Tell people and our listeners and our viewers how they can support you.
Oh, well, let me remove the mask for this. Give me
problem.
just a second.
I'm vexed.
Yeah, well, I am too.
And Carlos is vexed, so that works out.
Yeah, I what you can do to help, if you're willing to, just go to charliecrist.com. Send in a contribution. That's important. Volunteer. That's important. Get a bumper sticker on your car. We got thousands of them for you. Get a yard sign in your yard. And most importantly, talk to your friends. There is nothing more important in an election than one trusted friend talking to another about who to vote for and why. And if you want, tell them to vote for Charlie Crist. If you want evil, tell them for Ron DeSantis, because he's been evil to Florida. I'm not kidding. I'm going to call a thing a thing. You know, ask any woman who wants the right to choose. Ask any black who wants the right to vote. I worked with John Lewis from Georgia. I mean, this guy is a civil rights icon. And his most important issue was your right to vote. In fact, he would tell me and anybody else who would listen of my colleagues, you know, Charlie, your right to vote is precious. In fact, it's so precious, it's probably sacred. I'll leave on that note.
Cool.
Let's fight for our right to vote and do the right thing. Help us on the way.
We hope to get Stacey
Crist.
Abrams and John Fetterman and possibly even Beto O'Rourke on. So we're on our way, because if we got you on, I think they'll want to follow.
Crist, Florida's hope.
There you go.
You have hope.
Drop the mic. Carlos.
Carlos, you got to hit the computer to end the stream, brother.
God bless you.
Carlos, we're still live, brother.
Good nutrition.
Carlos.
For dinner.
Monique. And we're still on, aren't we?
Yeah.
I didn't end the show. Do you?
Never
guys
worry
want me
about a
to-
hot mic, right?
I think you should end the show on that note, man. I ain't nothing more to say on that.
There's nothing else to say. This is
No, other than team, you should you've now heard from all three candidates for governor on the rotation for the Democratic primary, and I think it's important that you go back, watch our previous episodes, and make the decision for yourself now as voters.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll send you the YouTube link.
Hey guys, can we end the stream?
Let's do this. Bye.
This is